Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about how do you react when it seems like the vision that God has placed on you or the direction that God has taken you seems to be the exact opposite of where you need to be. I came to tell you today that when it feels like you're moving in the exact opposite direction and you've been in prayer about this thing, you actually are moving exactly where God needs you to be to fulfill the vision He has for you in your life. Genesis 37:28 in the Message Bible says this: "By the time the Midianite traders were passing by, his brothers pulled Joseph out of the cistern and sold him for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took Joseph with them down to Egypt." It's interesting that Joseph is a dreamer. This is the very beginning of Joseph's dreaming stage. He's already told his brothers and his parents that everybody's going to be bowing to him. He's already bragged about doing this and that. He's his father's favorite child. I mean, he gets the designer clothes while his brothers just share hand-me-downs. Joseph is decked out in all the coolest things. His brothers are out here working in the fields. And on this particular day, his brothers are fed up. They're done with Joseph. They're at the point now where they're just ready to kill their brother. And the brothers decide, listen, after thinking about it, we're just going to throw him in a pit and sell him into slavery because we never, ever want to see him again. Don't miss that. They sell him because they say we never, ever want to see him again. Joseph is going through this. He's come down. He's in the pit. And I mean, I can only imagine what Joseph is thinking. He has this vision, this dream for his life, and those who he trusted the most threw him in a pit. And isn't that like life sometimes, friends, that sometimes the people we value and trust the most can throw us in a pit? Joseph is here. He's sold to the Ishmaelites. They take him and sell him in Egypt. And you're saying, Pastor, where in the world in this text is there any type of hope for me today? I mean, Joseph, there's no type of good word, in this text. There's nothing. It's a text full of slavery. It's a text full of just oppression. But sometimes in the Bible, you have to look closer at the details to realize that there's hope in most stories, in every story, really. Joseph is at this point right now. And what I love is that the first sign of hope in the text is that he was sold for 20 pieces of silver. Now, I like that because Joseph is sold for 20 pieces. His brothers, the Ishmaelites, say that's a bargain. Get rid of him. We're just done. Flash sale. In our time, 20 pieces of silver is about roughly $500. So his brothers sold him for about $500 just to get rid of him. And what I love is that Joseph is not the only one in the Bible sold for silver, because Jesus was also sold for 30 pieces of silver. And what that lets me know is that if Jesus was sold for 30 and Joseph was sold for 20, that means that Jesus literally has been through everything that Joseph has gone through. He understands Joseph. Joseph had company in this situation. He didn't even know it yet. And here's what I love about when we go through hard times. Jesus has been through it 10 times harder than we have. So remember, friends, before you give up, remember that Jesus didn't give up. So if Jesus can stay in it, so can you. Joseph had company. He didn't even know it. He was sold for 20. Jesus was sold for 30. But not only that Joseph had company, Joseph was sold and brought to Egypt. Now, this is a obvious point in the text because everybody, you're saying, of course he was sold to Egypt. I mean, where else could he have gone? But what I love is that Joseph was sold directly to the place where his brothers would need him most. Now, remember, his brothers said, we never ever want to see him again. And isn't it interesting that they sell him to a location where they would desperately need him? And here is the funny thing about life, that when people try to throw you under the bus, when people try to sell you out, they don't realize that when they're selling you, the place where you end up is exactly where they will need you in the future. So don't trip, friends. Don't trip about the rejection. Don't trip about not making it, because in the end, God always has the last laugh. Joseph had no idea that his brothers would need him in Egypt. I'm sure he was just thinking that, wow, I'm moving in the exact opposite direction of where God needs me to be. He was sold to Egypt. His brothers would need him there eventually. But not only was he sold to Egypt, and not only was he sold for 20 pieces of silver, but Joseph arrived at his vision free of charge. Now get this, because this was a paid trip to Egypt. His brothers, out of their hate for Joseph, literally paid for his path to his vision. And here is how you have to develop your perspective on being thrown under the bus and being betrayed. That betrayal, God will use it to pay for your vision. Don't stress it, friends. Don't stress over the disappointments. Don't stress over the rejection, because actually that rejection paid for your vision. Stay encouraged, friends. You're moving exactly where God needs you to be. Don't give up on the vision. Trust the process. God will get you exactly to where he needs you to be. Be blessed.